Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing all the numbers that are associated with fly fishing, and this is just for beginners. Just keep that in mind. If you've been fly fishing for a while, you know what these numbers mean. This is something that was not taught to me when I basically learned how to fly fish first, and then spin fish, and then back to fly fish. So if you're coming from spinning gear to fly fishing, this is kind of your video for fly fishing for beginners, for going over the numbers and kind of what they mean, or my best explanation of it. So if you're coming from spinning gear or casting gear, basically, as I call it, let's discuss that. So for an example, this is called a blue fox, and this is a gigantic spoon that I actually found, I don't actually use. So this is 7/8 of an ounce. So when you cast that out, if you guys can see that, you guys cast that out, that's gonna go super far on normal spinning gear, right? But you won't be able to cast that with a little tiny rod, right? Your rod's gonna bend too much and it won't cast as far. So you kind of want to gauge your rod to what you're throwing. Fly fishing works the same way, but instead of throwing the lure, we're throwing the line. So let me go over what that kind of means. So this is my go-to fly rod for trout or smaller trout with a woolly bugger on there. It's just a fly. So this is an 8'6", number 4 or 4-weight fly rod. 8'6" is just standard 8'6" inches. And so this is a 4-weight fly rod. And to understand what that translates into spinning gear, what that means, it's a 4-weight fly rod, which means the first 30 feet of line here, which is called the forward weight of the line, right? The first 30 feet weighs a certain amount. So instead of throwing this little hook here, right, which is a certain weight, by hand I can only throw it so far, right? If I could throw that 7/8 lure, I could throw that pretty far because it's mass that's going out. So what fly fishing does is it takes all that weight, puts it in the line, and the line is what's throwing fly out. All the weight is in the line. So the first 30 feet of this weighs a certain amount. So the first 30 feet of a normal fly line, and I'll put up a chart right here or right here, wherever I put it, that's showing you a 4-weight fly line weighs 120 grains, which doesn't mean anything to anybody, but if you convert that to ounces, it's basically 0.27 ounces, or a quarter of an ounce. So this line can throw technically a quarter of an ounce worth of weight of fly. So anywhere from a number 4, which is this hook right here, this is a number 4 streamer, all the way down to something smaller, and hopefully the camera can focus on that, is these little midges that I use. Hopefully you can focus on that. Those are size 22. Same concept. The 22 is size hook, so bigger the number, the smaller the size hook, and that's based on wire gauges. That's a standard that came up a long time ago. Same with sheet metal and wire. Bigger the number, smaller the hook. Smaller the number, bigger the hook. So like I said, this is a size 4. I'm throwing this with a quarter ounce of line basically to cast that out. This is what I normally use for trout. Anywhere between a 4-weight and 5/8. 4-weight and a 5-weight is what I normally use. Now, if we get into bigger gear, this is my striper rod or striped bass rod or big bass rod. This is a 9'9" weight. So in theory, this is going to have more line, more weight, mass in the line. This has the first 30 feet weighs 230 grains. This is kind of an industry standard. And that's basically a ½ ounce. That is for throwing big air-resistant bugs like this, and for catching bigger fish. So if you look at the profiles between both rods, right? One's going to be a lot skinnier than the other. They're both made out of carbon fiber or graphite. It's the same concept. So those are the weights. So 4-weight for trout mainly, 9'9" weight or 9-weight for bigger fish, salmon and striped bass, which is what I have here in New Hampshire. Now, same goes with the reels. So I have a 4 to 5-weight size reel, so the Bat and Kill 2, and I'll leave all the links in the descriptions below for all this stuff. This is going to hold the size of line that I need, balanced to the rod that I'm using. So I don't want to put this big spool on this tiny rod. It will fit, but the weight balance will be way off. So same with this one, big spool, more backing, which I won't discuss, but basically that's the oh crap line if a fish takes more than your 90 feet of line that you're allowed, or 90 feet, which is the standard. So that's that. We talked about the hooks already. So this is basically a number 1 hook, and I'll put up the chart for that right here. And what you want to do is you want to match what you're fishing for, which is kind of based on your hook size, to your tippet. And I'll explain the tippet or your leader size. So the leaders go in X's, all the way from 0x all the way up, from 0x, which is the thickest and heaviest it can be, and I'll put up the chart, all the way down to, I think, 8x. And that's all based on the diameter of the line and what poundage it breaks at. To give you guys an example, I carry lots of spools like this, and I actually have 2 of them taken off. I have 2x all the way, so yeah, 2x, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I actually have 7 for fluorocarbon, and each number, it gets small. The bigger the number, the smaller the line, the easier it is to break, and the smaller diameter it is. And that's for more spooky fish. And the lower numbers are for bigger fish or less likely to break. So that's all the numbers for fly fishing if you were to get into it. So 4 weight's good for trout, 9 weight and up is kind of good for ocean fishing, bigger fish, salmon, that kind of stuff that's going to take a lot of line, and you're going to need that stronger rod to throw bigger, more air resistant, heavy flies and to fight that fish. So if you guys like what you're seeing, make sure you subscribe, comment with any questions below, and I'll make sure to answer them.